ぜ。
Welcome back, everyone. This is Overwatchers, the podcast all about, you guessed it, Overwatch. I'm Garrett Weinzerl. I'm sitting here with Patrick Beja, fresh from vacation. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent. I'm all refreshed and ready to tackle on the entire world, and we have a giant list of things we need to discuss, so I'm not going to take up too much space in that intro.
I wasn't going to continue asking how your vacation was, because we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. Or maybe I'm a jerk and I don't care. The audience can decide that. Also with us today is Chris, a.k.a. ChanmanV. Dude, welcome back as well.
What's up?
Overwatch stuff.
Overwatch stuff. Sometimes I forget how early in the morning this is for me, even though it's 11 in the morning.
You were in the same state as me.
I know, but still.
You've got 2 weeks in between. You know when it's coming up. Go to bed earlier, sir.
I'm just terrible at that.
You darn nerd. You're such a perfect nerd going to bed in the wee hours of the morning.
That's right.
But that's not all. We are joined by a guest today. You can find many of his Overwatch videos or TF2 if you're into that type of stuff over on his YouTube channel, which you can find at Mr. Muselk. Elliot, a.k.a. Muselk. Dude, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's cool to be here. Through the power of the internet.
Yes, exactly. You're coming to us from all the way in Australia, which we kind of joked beforehand, when no one could hear us because it technically wasn't recorded and therefore didn't exist, that you are actually in the future. So tell us, how's Sombra? That countdown.
It's the 25th. Sombra's out. She's crazy. She's basically like the spy from TF2, but with a rocket launcher. It's amazing.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, folks.
I just want to mention that, until a few episodes ago, I was the guy from the future, and sort of Muselk is kind of taking my spot. So there's a little bit of jealousy happening here. I'm not going to lie. I feel a little bit replaced.
I've upped to the future ante. I've just taken it that extra few hours.
I know. It's terrible. I'm going to have to, I don't know, do something crazy this episode. Just keep listening and find out what it's going to be.
If you watch very closely, you will witness Patrick assembling a flux capacitor during this entire podcast.
That's right.
So, well, guys, there's a lot of Overwatch to talk about because there's a lot of Gamescom to talk about. Since we last recorded, Gamescom has come and gone. Muselk, you were actually there, streaming.
I was. I played far too much Eichenwald than any sane person should ever play in a week. I think it was 5 hours a day for pretty much 6 days.
Yep.
And I was starting to go a little bit insane by the end, but on my very last game of the entire show, I managed to finally break the map. And I found an exploit where you could literally just like walk through a wall and just sit in there as Hanzo and pick everyone off. It was great.
New Mythbuster coming up right here.
I mean, knowing Blizzard, it's already patched. They're really good at that kind of stuff,
exactly.
unfortunately.
I think I would go nuts too if I had to play play with a bunch of Bastions and Hanzos on
it's far worse than that. I wish it was just Bastions and Hanzos. I think I had about 6 or 7 people who tried to shoot me with Mercy's staff because apparently they thought that she was a sniper class.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, the Gamescom show floor is not the home of high-level Overwatch. That's all I can say.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like, how did that happen? And then I guess, there's a lot of people there, probably a good portion who have never played the game before.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which led to some hilarious moments, but after 30 hours could get a little bit tiring.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And speaking of which, speaking of Bastion, we got a new short at Gamescom,
Yes.
which I know there is a lot to discuss today, guys, but I am more excited about that Bastion short than any other topic today. Oh, the feels it gave me.
I've been raving about this short for a week now. On every show I do about gaming, I'm like, Oh my God, this is incredible. And if you haven't seen it, I mean, everyone has seen it, but my reaction was really, first of all, it looks amazing, but the the level of expertise and craftsmanship that Blizzard is displaying in animation shouldn't exist. That's what I said on the instance last week. It's a video game company. How are they
This
so
should
good
not
at
exist.
making? No, I mean, the joke I made on the show was basically, it's like, if Michael Phelps came out of the water and on top of being a Olympian champion, he also played the guitar like Jimi Hendrix. It's like, you shouldn't be able to do those two things. It shouldn't work.
You're good at one thing, not two.
It was incredible. And yeah, the feels. I mean, the level of expression that they managed to convey through a couple of head movements and a small sound is incredible. Loved it.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I went out for some drinks that night with some of the Blizzard people, and randomly I was getting introduced to everyone, and then they're like, and then this is the guy that directed Dragons Alive and the new Bastion short. And I just went and like hugged him for a very uncomfortable amount of time until I'm pretty sure now he thinks I'm a bit of a weirdo. But it was totally worth it because, oh my God, like the Bastion was good, but Dragons is still my all-time favorite, and I don't think that one will ever be topped.
Same here, but Last Bastion is definitely my second favorite, and I think overall, as a video and cinematography, and even just the look of it, I think it exceeded Dragon. It's just I have a special place for just ninjas and dragons flying, just that kind of thing. But overall, I think Dragon's just another level.
Sorry, your head, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say Last Bastions, I feel like is. Yes, another level, like Patrick was saying, in terms of just movie making, and it felt like a Pixar movie or a Disney movie. Is definitely at that quality, especially the first minute and a half of it.
Up until the war flashback, it totally
this
felt
kind
like a
of
Pixar
Wall-E
film.
in the forest type of feel to it.
Yep.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, totally immersed, like instantly. And it was just in this peacefulness that kind of takes over you while you're watching it. It's so cool, man.
Yeah, I'm not getting in on the Dragons train. This is my favorite short, without a doubt, and it's probably because of my deep love. It's probably because of my deep love of things like the Iron Giant and the first like 45 minutes of Wall-E. Once they introduce talking people, Wall-E, I feel like kind of becomes less of a solid film. But oh my God, I love the beginning of Wall-E, and that was channeled to the nth degree. I felt in this Bastion short in a good way. Oh, geez.
The surprising thing there, maybe we shouldn't spend too much time on the Bastion short, but in Wall-E, he has a face and he has, expressions that he can put on. Mm-hmm. In this one, he really doesn't. He really only has head movement, sounds, and the light that flickers.
Yeah.
So their ability to express feelings with just that is really to be commended, I think.
That reminds me a lot of BB-8 from the most recent Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I hate you so much right now, Elliot. If you're listening on the audio version, Elliot just pulled out his Ganymede plush that I have to have, and I have a feeling I'll be able to track one.
This guy's one of the prototypes, and they put him on my shoulder, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna need him back at the end of Gamescom." I was like, "You're not getting him back." I am keeping this.
Oh
yeah,
man.
on the last day, they were actually trying to like chase it up from me and get it, and I was just like, "Nope, he's gone."
I don't know where he went. I don't know where he went.
They haven't sent like men in suits to my door to get it back yet, so I'm assuming it's okay. Like they're gonna let me get away with this one.
Joining us today, acknowledged thief. Muselk.
Another one? What is that? I've never seen that one.
I just like to say I think I'm really living up to my my name as an Australian stealing stuff. So I'm just trying to do the country proud.
Wow.
And then we've got Angry Winston.
You're just
the Angry Winston
but not
plush. Really nice.
Wait, is that a prototype too? I haven't seen that one.
No, that was a Gamescom exclusive. So
yeah, I saw.
They've got Winston plushies, but pretty sure that's the only primal Winston plushie.
Gonna have to go on eBay to get that one.
You're inciting some serious swag rage. In me and our listeners, I'm sure. But yeah, You talked a little bit
Anyway,
about you talked a little bit about Eichenwald, but that was the other big thing to come out of Gamescom, the new map. I keep wanting to call them battlegrounds. That's just the Heroes fan in me. But yeah, the new map was unveiled, Eichenwald, which is just German as all get out. My goodness, the German that is channeled in this map, but in a really good way. I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was when I was thinking of, well, eventually we're going to end up on a German map, I thought it was just going to be like a cottage town. I wasn't expecting some massive, gorgeous castle to be there as well. So they've really, I feel like, upped the ante in terms of presentation for this map. Even all the way down to the payload, which is a battering ram, and it's so much more exciting. And now I'm getting in my games now, and I'm like, man, these payloads are boring. We're literally just rolling a cart along. Nothing interesting happens. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I know when I first I jumped in the day before like the show and just was kind of walking around the map. And I remember when I first walked out of that attacker spawn, I was just like far out, like holy crap, this doesn't even feel like Overwatch because there's just so much. Like, I mean, if you're gonna be ridiculously nitpicky, I actually feel like it is maybe even slightly too much at times. Like, there are a lot of like bushes and green, which I get you do actually need for detailing, but if I was going to be super, super critical, like go out of my way to try and find a problem, it would be that maybe it's a bit too like messy, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot going on top of the fighting, but that said, it looks unbelievably beautiful, and it's such a fun map to play. No other map has the verticality that Eichenwald has, especially once you move into that second point. You can do some really amazing stuff just with the height, and it's finally a map where Widowmaker isn't trash, so that's another
that's true. So wait, so inside the castle there's a lot of verticality? Because when I played it, I felt like outside was, just Pharah's going to be amazing outside, but
sorry, when I say inside, inside the castle, I mean like once you break through that first door and kind of get into the
just the chandelier
inside the walls.
Yeah.
No. I mean, sorry, not like inside, but you know how there are the three stages. You count
inside the ramparts. Inside the ramparts.
Yeah, inside the ramparts.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So inside the big walled area, but still outside. And actually, Widowmaker can do well inside because there are some good sight lines for her, but not quite as well as on the outside. Yeah. I really like the map. I really, really like the map. I think that a lot of people, when they were playing the PTR, were saying there are too many like side routes and it's a bit too complicated. It can feel like a maze, but I think that that's just kind of, that always happens when you first jump in and play a map because you're taking in all this new stuff and it's a bit confusing.
I'll be the first to admit, when I came out of the castle starting point, I was looking at everything for the first time, and I took like I instead of just going straight, right, just generally straight, which kind of leads you the right direction, I took like a right in the very beginning, and it took me like a good 20 seconds to figure out how to get out again. But after I'd gone back into the spawn area again, I'm like, okay, I gotta go back out. So yeah, the castle area is pretty, it's definitely pretty big, and it can be a little bit confusing as to what direction is the right direction.
It's our first.
Every map is like that at the beginning, though.
Right.
It's usually. I mean, we tend to forget, but initially you really have no idea where you're going. And this one especially feels. Not only does it have a lot of verticality with a lot of places you can get to, even if you don't have a rocket boost or a way to get higher up, you can walk there. But also it's very open. I mean, I don't know if that's an impression, but it feels like the most open. It has the biggest open areas of all of the maps we've seen until now. So it definitely plays a little bit different. It's a different flavor of playing Overwatch.
It's open, I think, again, vertically, but I think it's pretty tight though. Like if you're going through it, the
second area is really
the second
area.
It has some really it has a really interesting like flux of gameplay. Like I think of any map in the game, Eichenwald is the one where you really need to be on top of hero switching, because on that first point, it's all about choke points, maybe having a couple of flankers to get over the roof to the left to really break through that choke point, because it is a tough choke point. Once you move into that secondary, you're looking more at Widowmaker. Like I said, she's really strong there. That sight line, if you're attacking, leading up to the gate that gets bashed down, is huge. Like, you are so far away that unless they've got a counter sniper, you can basically do whatever you want. No one can stop you. And then once you're inside, then like you were saying, Chris, it's a lot more kind of like close range and not so much the long sight lines like you had before. And that splash damage really comes into play there.
It really seems, I mean, this is our first new map, and it really does seem like it's just a big collection of lessons learned. Like, this feels significantly more confident, and it was informed by the data they have collected and the games they have had themselves since release.
Yeah. I still wouldn't say it's my favorite Overwatch map, but it's definitely, like, you can see they've done a lot of learning with it, and they've made some changes. I would like them to add one more flank route on the kind of when you're attacking on the left side, when you're kind of pushing in, that maybe like a Farah or a Hanzo can jump over. But other than that, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm rambling, by the way.
No.
I'm used to recording
That's
videos
why
by
you're
myself,
here.
So I talk way too much.
That is why you are here. We would like to invite you on so that you may sit here and be quiet. Yeah, but anyway, so let's just keep chugging right along. So we got a developer update, and shortly after that, again, we've had 2 weeks in between recording, so we've had a PTR patch with everything we're about to talk about. You can go test right now. The big, huge, chunky conversation I think we're going to have today is about the changes coming to competitive in Season 2. Because we've been talking about pretty much since Chris joined the show, how the skill rating, how the ladder system functions in Overwatch, and how we, I think, kind of all agree that it was flawed in one way or another. And there's some big changes coming in this one. And honestly, when I remember glancing at it and not reading the whole thing and just being like, but they're just adding more numbers. That's you're doubling down on what I think is wrong with this freaking system. But then I sat down, I calmed down, and actually listened to the whole YouTube before posting a comment below. I think a lesson many interneters can learn. But yeah, hey guys, we're getting the old school StarCraft system. I can't remember anyone on this show that suggested they should go to the old school StarCraft system with tiers.
Wait.
Did anyone suggest that?
Actually, there was maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny. It's basically what you, us, and everyone else, I think, wanted, and it's also, not implying that we were the only one defending this idea. I think many people were, but it's something we discussed last time, and we were saying they should go back to what they made on the initial version of the competitive mode in that respect, the different categories to just make you feel a little bit better about it. And yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. So they're basically addressing this and the sudden death issues, which we knew about. So they're addressing all of the issues we had with the competitive mode, I think. I mean, the main big things.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of...
I think one of the... I was going to say, I think one of the best things about the Overwatch development team is they're actually... They don't really have that, hubris. They're, very open to feedback and listening to the community and talking about things and trying to see what everyone thinks is right for the game. Whereas I know a lot of developers, Valve, would very much kind of just be like, fuck you guys, we know what we're talking about here. We made Half-Life 12 years ago. And then kind of just totally ignore what people actually want. So I think one of the most refreshing things is that they've been through all these iterations, and they've done that because the community's like, look, this isn't kind of what we want. And they're really listening to that. And you can tell they're not just slowly creeping improvements in. They are just in swathes every season, start of season 1, start of season 2, from beta, just making these massive changes. And I think that's so good to see, because putting up with a half-done competitive mode sucks. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is actually how they're going to basically tighten, queue banding. So, that you need to be within the equivalent of... it's actually, they upped it to 20 ranks if you're below the equivalent kind of a 60 rank. And then if you're above a 60 rank, it's 10 ranks. They posted a thing on the forum saying they were going to change it.
That's good.
Which for me was kind of ruining competitive after a point when you start queuing against 80s who are in a party with rank 40s, and you're just like, oh my god.
Well, people were abusing it too to some extent.
Absolutely.
With Smurf
Yeah.
accounts, and I mean, for sure they were abusing it, and it's definitely nice. They want you to still be able to play with your friends in competitive, but I don't know. For me, I just kind of think of, if I'm gonna play with my friends and they're like vastly different skill wise, then I should just play quick play with them. Like it's not fair to my teammates to necessarily put them in this situation too. And even though the average skill rating is supposed to be mathematically correct in matchmaking, it generally isn't. Depending on, it really depends on where that low skill level person plays. Like if he plays DPS,
I don't even think. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, if he plays DPS, it's a vast difference than if the lower skill player plays, say, a tank or maybe an off support or something like that.
I mean, this is an issue.
Yeah, that's my point. It was it basically, the average team number doesn't really, if you have players that are really much lower than others, then the average team rank doesn't really mean much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny seeing this because this was, these are changes that are very similar to the changes that recently came into Heroes of the Storm in terms of of limiting how people can group up on the competitive ladder system over there, which is called Hero League. It's very similar. You have to be within, X amount of each other in your rating to be able to group up and play together.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's good. It's good.
This still isn't. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say this isn't as far because you can still have full pre-made groups. In Heroes, we're currently limited to 2 now in Hero League, but it's interesting to see multiple teams over at Blizzard going through the same issues.
Yeah, well,
basically giving you exactly what you wanted in both cases, Garrett. It's really funny.
Well, they're learning from both. I mean, StarCraft 2 ladder is probably the best it's ever been, the state of it right now. And it sounds like Heroes probably in the same state. And Overwatch is pulling from both of those because both of those are super successful and the community are really enjoying both. So
yeah,
kudos to Overwatch. And they admit when they make mistakes, kind of like what Elliot was saying, just starting off. I mean, they're the first to say that season 1, there were a lot of problems with season 1. They had, they are very open about it and make huge changes. This is awesome.
Yeah, I really love the developer updates from Kaplan because more and more it seems like he's talking about what they're thinking about doing and things that aren't set in stone, which is something you typically do not see from Blizzard. They usually don't say a darn thing until it's already coming down the pipeline at you.
I just want to mention, just because I am a horrible contrarian, that there are some things that they don't budge on. Not many, and certainly they are one of the teams we've seen that listens to the community the most in the most unexpected ways. But there are some things where they say, listen, this is not the vision we have for the game, and we're not going to move on that. A couple of examples I remember all the way from beta was some people initially were suggesting very, very strongly that they should get rid of hero switching, for example. That was a super strong demand. Another one was getting a much cleaner, less obstructed UI and effects. And they also didn't move from that. So there is still something to be said about.
They toned down effects a bit.
Not that much. I mean, they didn't change.
Do you remember beta sonar arrow that was like a giant blue pulsating barrier? I think they did go to some efforts, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, the thing like the weapon, the viewport with the weapon sizes and things like that were hotly debated. And anyway, my point is, there's still some, you can't just listen to everything your community is saying because then the game is gonna, But anyway, you're absolutely right that they are listening to the most we've ever seen, and they're not making missteps. I mean, the biggest misstep we've seen, at some point it's going to happen, but the biggest one is probably the tracer butt issue, which we all agree is ridiculous. Right, but that's where you have to go to find something where the community was saying you guys. I mean, part of the community was saying you guys suck. I strongly disagreed, but Anyway, this is awesome, and for the way it makes me feel, the new system, I'm gonna feel a lot better being able to say I'm hopefully a gold player than saying I'm a rank 49 or 50. Player. That
absolutely
exactly.
And
so you've got
they give you a goal too. Like these tiers, at least, give you something to work towards, and then when you achieve it, you get to keep it for a while. You know, you actually get to hold it for a while, and not be afraid of dropping or ladder anxiety or anything crazy like that.
And all the tiers actually sound kind of good. They don't have like, you know, like a turd tier where you're just like, I'm a turd tier. It's always like, it's like, I'm gold. I'm gold. I'm this kind of shiny metal. I'm like a diamond. Like it all sounds good, even if you're not good.
Yeah, exactly. Even
you get to feel like that.
Well, bronze probably, you know, feels kind of not great because it feels kind of not great in Heroes, and it has always felt kind of not great in StarCraft. But still, if you're bronze,
you're still on the podium, Garrett.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
It's better than not being.
Exactly.
Still on the podium.
Just a little bit lower on the podium. But
I would argue
about rankings.
Yes.
Talking about rankings, the rank 60 in season 1 was actually the top 6% of the players.
Yeah.
How did that even happen?
A bad system in terms of...
It was a very tight bell curve. It was a very tight bell curve. I mean, I know the world #1 rank was 91. To reach top 500 when it was released, you needed to be 79. So, I mean, top 500, that's like top 0.0001% or something like that. Right. So yeah, like it's not like a really smooth bell curve like CSGO where it spreads all the way out to the extremities. It's very centered around 50, which I don't know if they're going to try and change much this season, but I think that you could spread it slightly more. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a design issue if you don't, you know, just because, again, the way it feels, if you're top 6%, you should feel incredibly good about your ability to play the game.
Right.
And, yeah.
One of the things that Blizzard has to, you know, struggle with in the design of pretty much all their games across the board is the gamification of progression. And, like, and it gets, again, into this discussion we've had multiple times, which is on the science of fun. And I think that was the issue with the old 1 to 100 system, especially since this, you know, in Kaplan's, I was calling it a post-mortem, he dropped that hey, it's top 6% of players were 60, you know, and above. That's just, yeah, it just seems like poor design. And that's why I think this tier system, that's why a tier system works. It's why it's in almost every other freaking Blizzard game. Because it just,
but then isn't everyone going to be what's after gold platinum? Is you know, roughly rank 55 to 65 is going to be platinum, right? So are people going to manage to go above a significant amount of people going to manage to go above platinum?
Not necessarily, but that's not. I don't think that's necessarily the goal. I mean, there should be.
You don't have to do.
There should be fewer players in diamond than gold.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like a box.
You don't want it to be a flat line, like kind of
you want it to be bell curve. Like, I mean, if you look at CS:GO's one after they did the kind of rank adjustments, where everyone was like, "Oh, I fucking fell 3." Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
It's totally fine.
Where they like fell 3 ranks and everyone, there was like riots in the streets. But like, yeah, like Counter-Strike has got a great bell curve because it's like if you're at the outer extremities, you're in the 1%. If you're at the absolute tips of each end, and then coming into the middle, it kind of bulges up. So they've got a really nice flow. But I'm sure with the tiers, I mean, there are obviously going to be people filling each of these tiers, so maybe they'll make some adjustments. I mean, to be fair, it was season 1. Same with calibration. Like, I know they're making a lot of changes to calibration, rank distribution. Like, I'll be really interested to see how it is in season 2, because I'm sure it'll be different.
Yeah, you can even kind of see, I think, where they're expecting the groups of players to fall in how they've divided, because we still have a number system. It goes now from 1 to 5,000, and that's divvied up between the 7 tiers. So bronze is the largest chunk because it covers 1,500 ranks. Then silver through master are 500 point chunks, and then grandmaster covers the final 1,000, 4,000 all the way to 5,000. So I think there's a reason bronze, for example, has the most numbers. Now, Grandmaster covers 1,000, so that kind of breaks my point there. But
have they said if they're still doing the top 500?
Oh, I don't know.
No reason they wouldn't.
I think. Well, actually, they didn't say they weren't doing it.
I believe they did, because he also
I'm sure they would. Yeah.
He talked about you needed X amount of games, I think, to be
Yeah,
eligible
there is a
for
minimum.
top 500.
There's definitely a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it implies they're still doing it. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forget. I didn't make a note of that particular number. There's so many other things that I felt were more important to talk about than the top 500.
Yeah.
I should have made a note. But
the distribution in the tiers, it sounds like they're shooting. I mean, what StarCraft did with the distribution was it was pretty even until the very end of it. It was. It's hard for me to remember now, like especially current statistics, but at least a year or 2 years ago, they really shot for like 20, 20, 20, until you got to like high masters and grandmasters where it just completely drops off at that point. But everything else was very evenly distributed, and that's how I think that's what they wanted. So it sounds like they're trying to go a little bit in that direction, at least in terms of just how many ranking points are divided up into each section. Which is good. I think that's definitely good.
Yeah.
I agree. I was surprised how much I enjoyed competitive this season. Like I didn't play it at all because coin flip just sent me insane.
Oh god.
And then
oh, man.
the whole Overwatch World Cup thing happened, and it was like you got to be at least rank 65 if you want to be part of it. And I basically hadn't even been calibrated. So I just like ground it nonstop for like a week and ended up kind of like just getting addicted to it, which was.
Did you get
really
carried? Be honest. Did you get carried?
No. I solo queued Zenyatta.
Oh, you
to,
solo
I think,
queued
73.
too. Wow, nice.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, like
Nice.
Zenyatta had a very good patch, but
No, that's still impressive.
I think
Solo queuing, man, that is an experience.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the season, I met this one guy who plays a lot of Reinhardt, and now we kind of like queue together, and it's awesome because you got that tank and the healer, and you just kind of
Right.
like
You make the shot calls basically.
we make the shot calls.
All
Yeah,
right, team,
and
we're-
he's super talkative like me.
We're going here. We're going here.
Good stuff.
We talked about it a little bit, but I do want to reiterate that in the new tier system, we're not going to be able to drop out of a tier once we achieve it. So if you make it to gold, your rating can drop below the threshold for gold, but you will not lose your gold status. You will keep that tier, which I dig quite a bit, and reminds me a little bit of the ranked chess in Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
Although
So is that basically
so-
just so you don't feel quite as bad about yourself?
Yes.
If you like start
Of course.
skiing,
it's clearly
It's okay.
it's clearly trying to target.
You're still seeing your ranking, but my question then is going to be: do other players see your ranking, or do they just see your rank, or your gold status or
Oh,
medal
that's a good
status?
point, actually.
Because if they see your ranking, then they're still going to be complaining and yelling at you. I'm assuming they only see your medal,
I mean, it would.
which,
No,
by the way, could
I-
could help. Maybe not. Maybe
No,
not.
I think
don't
they're probably going to see. I'd think they'd see your ranking more, unless they go to your profile. They could probably see your medal, but
know.
I would think on that first screen that we just still see the scores, and then we see some average score.
Okay.
I would also
It's still
think.
gonna
I
need
think that's how it
underdog
is right
rating.
now in the PTR, right? I mean, I think that's exactly.
Oh,
Also,
right.
say you.
I haven't done ranked in PTR. I refuse to go through 10 horrible hyping placement
Right.
matches to get a rank that'll get wiped.
Yeah, because imagine you hit gold and you fall back down to silver. I'm assuming you get matched with silver players, so why would silver players be angry at you that you have a gold medal over your name?
Yes.
I don't know, because maybe someone
Because
yeah, I
you
don't-
think all people are terrible and in
This
general?
is the internet, okay?
Well, so no, the thing is, these changes are really just a coat of paint, right? It's not. It doesn't change anything in the actual matchmaking and ranking. It's just the way the information, the exact same information, is presented to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And that entire process is to make you feel better about playing competitive. That's the whole goal. So that's why I'm wondering if they're, how it works in the way it's presented. I think it's relevant here. But yeah, I don't know. I guess you wouldn't still need to see people's ranks because you need that information.
Right. The end of season rewards are going to be based off your highest achieved tier. So again, they're targeting ladder anxiety like crazy. They just want you to play and not fear for losing points. And they are bringing
Which
in,
is so good.
yeah, they are bringing skill rating decay also for the high end tier. So Diamond through Grandmaster, if you do not play for 7 days, you will lose 50 rating every 12 hours that you without playing. Although apparently this ends at the bottom end of the diamond tier, so you can't decay yourself down into platinum and then into gold, and then eventually you log in. You're like, why am I bronze? Why am I here?
So basically, you need to play one match every 7 days if you don't want to lose your skill rating above diamond.
Yes.
Which is reasonable.
Yep, I think that's fine. Makes sense to me. This is something Kyle and I have been hoping for in Heroes, because every time a new hero comes out, new players show up that placed gold or platinum or diamond. They haven't played in a month. And you get into these games, and it's just like, oh, why are you? Your positioning is bad. You're not landing your ults. It's like, well, I haven't played in a month. It's like, please, God, get some MMR decay in this game.
But that only applies to diamond, though. So gold players wouldn't be affected.
You're right. So when when
true.
Sombra comes out, we're going to be us plebs are going to be plagued by
Quien es Sombra?
Yeah. Yeah. Chat room saying it's every 24 hours, but Kaplan said 12 hours in his video.
I thought I read 12 as well. Yeah,
I thought it was 12 hours too.
Yeah. So,
Um,
sorry, chat room. I'm just going off what the lead designer on the game said.
yeah, what does he know, right? He's only like the director of the entire thing. No, but I'm so excited for season 2. I'm excited for the balance changes, especially.
Yes.
I mean, like, I'm saying this as a Zenyatta main who very much benefits from this, but I hope these projectile changes don't make it in. I'm hoping that from the feedback they get from the PTR, I think that the buff they've given to Hanzo just through his faster projectiles and movement speed is enough, because he was getting picked in the Pacific tournament, which, granted, you know, he only really got picked for picks early game, but I really hope they don't put the projectile changes in. Like, Hanzo, I played him a ton, I played Zenyatta a ton. I do not want bigger projectiles in this game.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, especially Hanzo. I mean, he's probably the most rage-inducing character that we have in Overwatch right now, and I think this would just increase it, or at least continue it on. In Zenyatta too. Zenyatta's already really powerful, so larger projectiles would be just incredible, even with the Discord nerf.
Why do you think Hanzo is the most rage-inducing character? I'm curious.
I just think
half the time you don't even see the arrow. A lot of the time it's luck whether or not you walk into it. And if they make the projectile bigger, you'll die, and you'll see the arrow didn't even hit you. It went beside you, but because of the big hitbox, it hit you. I mean, I think the thing that just kills you more than anything in any kind of FPS, losing a fight that you know that you weren't really outskilled, you just got kind of beaten by crap. And I think stuff like, you know, really unlucky scatter arrows, getting hit by projectiles that shouldn't hit you, like Widowmaker when she used to be able to just body shot you from across the map. You know that they haven't outplayed you, but you're dead.
They shot, I mean, and it's exemplified with the kill cam too. So you get to see it every time.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you, Patrick. Do you just skip every Hanzo death? Because I'm ready to throw my monitor when I see that, like, just blind fire. It's like, oh, I just happened to walk into exactly where that arrow intersected.
I mean, I don't. It happens, and obviously I look at. I'm not one of the people who skip the kill cam, because you get lots of valuable information from the kill cam. But yeah, sometimes it's a lucky shot, and if you get 5 in a row, then it's a little bit frustrating. But there are many things that I get frustrated about in the game and get angry about, but this is not one of them for some reason. It's just, oh well, they were lucky. Maybe I get lucky at one point as well.
Yeah, see, for me, Hanzo has been enemy number 1 since beta.
I mean, for some
remember
reason,
back when
Genji frustrates me. Yeah, scatter arrow. With the headshots, I agree it was bad, but Genji is way worse for me at the moment. He feels like good Genji players, which I guess they're good, so they should be rewarded.
That was my point.
Those people.
Damn those people who can play the game. They're so rage-inducing. That's who they should nerf.
Yeah.
That said, like, I think that I'm very much looking forward towards Genji getting nerfed, because I think his ultimate was way too game changing. Like, it was one of those ones that, I mean, with like, when there's a Zarya ulti coming, you can be like, okay guys, let's spread out, let's make sure we're not bunched up, we can just make sure she only gets 1 or 2 people. But with Genji, you can spread out, you can discord him, but he'll just kill one guy, dash to the next, kill, dash to the next, kill, and you can spread out, you can do whatever you want. But even at high level play, it's basically a guaranteed 3 to 6 kills.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing against a good Genji, they're not going to Dragon Blade until they can kill your Zenyatta first. So the Discord's not even in play like a lot of the time. And then on top of that, it's like we haven't even seen Ana really being played and using that ult again with Genji, which is easy streak. I mean, it's like super easy. Anytime that actually happens in my game, which actually doesn't happen that much, surprisingly, when it does happen, it's like a team wipe. It's just incredibly easy. So the duration of the Dragon Blade, I think, was a big issue, and I don't know. I don't know if a second's actually enough, but hope it's definitely a good start to
they knocked 2 seconds off it.
Oh, is it 2? Oh, I thought it was just 1 second.
Yeah, so it used to be 8, now it's 6.
Oh, okay, that's a big deal then. Yeah.
And then they nerfed a lot of his
a
double jump mobility.
Yeah.
I don't think they changed range. I believe the range is the same. Or there was
it's
nothing in the
Wait,
notes
double
about
jump?
it.
How did they nerf double jump?
Oh, there's this certain
So
things
double
you can do.
You can't.
double
It
jump
doesn't.
you used to be able to double jump onto a wall, climb up the wall, jump off the wall, and double jump again. So now you can't double jump off a wall, which is a big mobility nerf because that was one of his big combos. They also removed the animation cancel combo that he had, where you would throw 3 shurikens, melee, and then dash, which was like a 200 damage burst combo that would instantly reset on kill. So it was ridiculous, but it'll be good now. I don't think he'll be in the competitive meta anymore, but that means there's more room for Mercy to come in because she won't get picked off by a Genji ult at the start of every fight.
Yeah, and
needs Soldier to be buffed too, but
and Mercy's healing is going up as well. So I think with these Genji changes and a buff to Mercy, we're going to see a lot more of her play. Yeah. Personally, as someone who enjoys Junkrat, I'm just excited about Genji's getting stuck in my trap. I'm really excited about that.
I know.
That is definitely nice.
That'll be nice.
They basically just got Genji and just smacked him over the head with a massive hammer, and it makes me so happy.
Dude, I love that. I main Ryan, so it's just like, yes.
Yeah. So great.
Hit him some more.
So great. You are too good of a ninja. Stop it. That's pretty much what they said. So, Elliot, you're here and you've outed yourself as a big Zenyatta fan. What do you think about the Discord orb nerf?
I think it's good. I think it's totally justified because I mean, just you put that in a tank, and especially at high level play where you can be like, I've discorded Roadhog. Your entire team just looks at Roadhog. He's no longer is it 600 HP? Oh my god, I don't know how I don't know this. 600 HP hero. He's now got effectively like 400 HP. So doesn't it boost it by 50? It boosted by 50%.
It was 50%.
It was 50%. Now it's
now
it's
so
30.
that would knock him to 400, right? I don't know.
Well, if it's 50%, it would cut it in half. 300.
300. I think. Okay.
But but wouldn't that be if it was 100% increase? I don't know. Okay, shut up.
It increases. I think the way it works is it increases your damage by 50%. So yes, it brings him down to 400.
You're right. It's 400.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. My mistake.
But yeah, no, I think it's really good, and I also think they buffed the base damage for his orbs of destruction. I mean, especially if these hitbox changes make it into the patch, which once again I hope they don't. But if they do, I think it could be like an overall buff to the kind of individual play of Zenyatta. He might be slightly less effective in competitive, but I think it's good now because with I still don't think Ana will be picked, but I think with the nerf to Genji, Mercy's healing buff, and the kind of nerfs to Lucio and Zenyatta, we might actually see some kind of mix-up in the healer metagame and some kind of, choosing them depending on what situation they're needed for, which I think is really good. Just, all around, it's a 20 however many hero game. You want diversity, and it brings in diversity.
I wish they'd redesign Zenyatta's right-click. Like, how often do you use his right click? Outside of just spamming the shield.
I use it. If you're spamming a shield, I think you actually just want to use your left click because it fires full 6 off as fast as fast. No, I use his right click a lot. Surprisingly, I think it's one of his most underrated abilities because basically whenever I'm in a fight and I don't see a target immediately that I'm shooting at, I'm charging that up, and then normally in the 5 seconds or so it takes, or 3 seconds it takes to charge it up to 5 shots, you spot a new target and you instantly burst off 5 things in their direction. If you shoot that at a discorded target, it's like 300 damage or shooting
Right.
a couple of headshot. Like the number of times where I've just one shot down a full health hero because I charged that up is huge. And if you know that if you're tracking someone with an Orb of Discord who's behind a wall, you can see they're about to come out. You charge up 3 or 4 balls, fire it, and they will just get destroyed.
Is it
I
all the time
really
on
like it, especially once they buffed.
on Attack on Hollywood when if you get, as you're taking the payload, if you wipe them back and they're running back in, I just fire it through that little doorway, and I almost always get a kill. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no, I think that it's definitely not like it's not a main mode of attack, but in the situations where you need it, it is really good. And it just means that once again, Zenyatta is always doing things. He's discording people, he's healing people, he's left clicking people, and when he can't see an enemy, you hold down that right click, and I mean, worst case scenario, you don't spot someone and you fire it at a wall. Best case scenario, you suddenly unload 48 damage in the new patch balls at people, which is 250 damage, assuming they're not discorded, and knock that up to like 330, plus even more if you headshot. Like, it's kind of ridiculous.
Good Zenyatas are terrifying, is I think what everyone should take away from this little discussion. So, we should talk a little bit about sudden death going away.
Yes.
I think so. Do we want to discuss that?
I mean, I guess there's not that much to say except for I mean, the coin flip going away. Obviously, it's just play. I mean, I don't think anybody would disapprove of the coin flip going away, because that was just literally that might have been the most rage-inducing thing, Patrick. If it wasn't Hanzo, it was the coin flip. Nobody was happy with the coin flip, so that going away is good. And then now that they're using the time bank, I think we all pretty much predicted that that's the route that they were going to take, and they hinted at it too.
Well, they said it,
yeah. They hinted at it. They pretty much said it. So I think it's going to be good. I think the games are going to be longer because of it, but that's definitely better than coin flip. I will take longer games over just pretty much luck type of results.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I love a game, any game I can get into. You know, get in one game before dinner or something when I have a short amount of time. That's great. That's awesome. But whatever, I can go play quick play if I have to. I'm fine with longer games and competitive if we're getting rid of a damn coin flip. So.
Yeah. And hopefully, actually, I don't know if you'd want that, but maybe there'll be some higher kind of like XP swings if you're having to put more time into games. But just a thought.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
The other thing is that it will be really rare, but there will be draws if you actually get into a situation where you have the same number of points, and that's one of the reasons why they switched to
10x.
to 10x points.
They multiplied competitive credits by 10. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And what happens is that if you get into a draw situation, both teams or every player gets 3 points instead of the 10 you get if you win. So you still feel okay about having a draw, and you hopefully, I don't know how it will affect ranking though. Maybe you don't move ranking wise, but yeah. So that's the other new thing.
Maybe you still move if you're an underdog.
Maybe it'll do it based on underdog or overdog.
Yeah.
That makes
Maybe, yeah.
I think so.
That would make sense.
Underdog or overdog. That's the thing.
I am a simple Australian man. Okay.
So the good news is that there's always going to be an underdog now, right? Given that there's 4 digits now, where before we just had like a level ranking for the most part that just decided, and you'd have an underdog. I don't know, maybe like a quarter of the time for whenever I was playing. Now it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
So hopefully
like,
just
but if you're an
itself
underdog by a
much.
couple of points, it doesn't mean much on a 5,000 scale.
completely mathematical. So it shouldn't matter much.
Yeah, absolutely. So already talked about the hero changes, so I think we can move past that.
The only thing I added is that they just announced they are looking at different roles getting different rank benefits. So basically, everyone had been complaining that the healers were getting less points because the game wasn't calculating their participation to the game well enough, and they're looking at that. So hopefully they will see and check whether or not that's true or not.
More love for support and tanks, please.
Yeah, absolutely. They're
Give
going
us
to be
some more credit, baby.
They're going to be adding play of the game to Heroes of the Storm, and they're like, "Oh, it won't just be assassins getting kills." And I'm sitting here like, I don't know. I play Overwatch. I'll believe that when I see it.
Adding it to Heroes of the Storm.
They're adding a very similar system to Heroes.
Oh, I
they're
thought
adding,
it was
cool.
just
I
it's
like
not.
recommendations.
Sorry, it's not.
Do
It's
they
not.
actually
Sorry,
have
it's
a
not.
replay?
Sorry, I used the wrong term. It is more like the commendation system at the end, not necessarily play the game. My apologies. So sorry, I totally used the wrong terminology there. But yeah,
I think play of the game is just the single. Like it's so weird that Call of Duty has been doing final kill cam for so many years, and no one ever thought of changing it from final kill cam to
Play
best
of
kill
the
cam, which is like
because it's not
such a
cool to admit that you kind of like Call of Duty.
Well, no, I'm not gonna lie. I have a blast with Call of Duty for about like probably the first 15 or 20 hours whenever a new game comes out. Like just that like dumb fun of just mowing down people like is good. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, this is shallow. And then I go back to Overwatch and BF2.
Yeah, I agree. So before we move on, let's thank our patrons supporting the podcast over at patreon.com/Overwatchers. Huge thanks to our producer, LVE. And also this episode, we wanted to thank Greg T, Kyle R, Ken U, Ben K, Kyle the Huey. That's an interesting name, Kyle the Huey. Timothy O, Gregory K, and Chris, no last name given. So Chris with no last initial, you know who you are.
It's me.
Thank you. Oh, Chris is for...
We want to thank every Chris in the world.
We want to thank ChanmanV, who's supporting his own show. He's losing money on this deal, by the way, because of credit card transaction fees. So,
wait, I could get paid for this? Crap, I got to renegotiate.
So we haven't talked about the 60-tick client, and Patrick, I see that's what you wanted to discuss under the strategy talk this week.
Yeah, well, I just stuck it here because, there was no proper place to put it. Wow, that sounds wrong. So the 60-tick client, it was patched into the game, right, a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And for those who don't remember, the tick rate is the rate at which the game updates itself so you know where each projectile is and who's getting hit and all of this. And the server has always been 60 tick, but the client, so the game on your computer, was 20 tick, so much slower. And it led to things like you getting hit, or the main issue was hooked by Roadhog, when on the server you were still able to get hooked because you weren't behind a wall, but on your computer it was a 15th of a second later, but already you had gone behind the wall. So it looks like he hooked you behind a wall, when in reality he didn't, because on the server the state was correctly implemented with the 60 hertz, the 60 tick. Anyway, a lot of people were complaining that the game was just 20 ticks and wanted to have a 60 tick version for everything, so including the client, which is fair enough. But it feels to me like a lot of people were thinking that it would fix, quote unquote, the issue of them getting hooked by Roadhog, when in reality what happens is that it only shows you that Roadhog hooked you before you went behind the wall. It doesn't make Roadhog not hook you, right? It doesn't make you actually go behind the wall and avoid the hook in that similar situation. So basically what I'm getting at is I'm wondering if it actually changes anything. I guess perception is important.
I was about to say.
After a couple of weeks with the 60 tick client, do you feel like it actually changed anything? I'm not hearing anyone talk about it anymore. It's not like, yeah, finally, now it works. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
I think that 60 tick does tend to be like or just tick rate in general just tends to be the scapegoat of gaming. Like you even see in Counter-Strike, people are like, oh, I got killed. Fucking crap. Sorry again. Where am I? 120. Where am I? I'm a YouTuber. Okay, I do these things. And they're like, in Counter-Strike, they got 60 tick and now they want 120 tick and if they got 120, they'd be asking for 240.
Exactly.
And it's just ping is a factor in multiplayer gaming. It's always going to lead to that and the fact that Roadhog has a hook hitbox the size of a small car. But these things are like they're just factors in the game. And I think that tick rate, I do think actually would, like, I think it is having an impact, especially in that kind of smooth, responsive gameplay. It'll change outcomes in a very small number of situations, not really. But I think the best thing that it shows is just that, you know, clearly they've been like, okay, like a lot of people bought the game. A lot of people are buying our loot boxes from the summer event. Like we can, and they're not just like taking that money and running off to Hawaii with it. They're like, okay, let's actually invest this back in the game. Because I was talking with one of the people, and it's apparently like when you triple your tick rate, it is well, not quite triple, but a very significant increase in your server costs.
Yeah,
because effectively they're running at triple the rate they were before.
Right.
So they're not, you know, I think the best thing to take away from this is, okay, look, like Blizzard is like the more like the game's being supported through loot boxes, and Blizzard is putting that right back into the game, which is awesome.
Right.
We didn't talk about the summer loot boxes, by the way, but we should have touched on those. But yeah, I agree with that, and it was a huge priority for them too. Like Jeff at one point said, hey, you know, we're pushing things like spectator mode and stuff back so that we can get this, you know, just the 60 tick in and get it right for you guys.
To get you guys to shut up.
Yeah, exactly. It's seriously like, Patrick, I'm glad you actually brought this. I mean, you put this topic in because it's purely just to placate people. You know, it's just like nobody's going to be arguing, or nobody's saying much about it because that's exactly what it's supposed to do, is just placate people. The actual play, you know, just what you see from your end, if you're actually doing those things like Roadhog pulls and stuff, doesn't change anything. They did fix the whole Roadhog pulling people from like randomly from below, you know, just like somehow just hooking some guy that you're not even aimed at. It was really weird that way, but in general, yeah, I don't think 60 tick's going to do much.
No, I agree with you, Patrick. I think it's just it's a perception thing, and I do think there's some value to that. Whether it's the most valuable thing we talked about, no, I think this is the least important topic on the rundown this week, but it is still something worth bringing up because a month ago, tick rate was the only damn thing the majority of the people on subreddit were discussing.
Yeah, it's like a meme. It's ridiculous.
I will. Yeah, I think ultimately I think it was interesting for me, not, you know, because of the tick rate itself, but because it was one thing that the community was, it's shutting people up, which I always enjoy, you know, on the internet, getting the angry crowds to be demonstratively be proven wrong. However, since I'm pathologically honest, I will say that they did mention, you know, if we did update to 60 tick, it would mean that a lot of people could not, you know, it would cause problem to the significant portion of the gaming population. Like a lot of people don't have the connection to support a tick rate like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it dynamically adapts if the connection doesn't support it. Oh, okay, all right. Well, in that case, I was gonna say, oh, but it didn't happen, so they were lying. I guess it does just dynamically impact. All right.
No. I think one of I was reading some of you guys probably seen it, but I was watching a breakdown video of the tick rate update, and Blizzard's apparently done one of the most kind of effective implementations of a 60 tick rate that any game ever has. Not only through just it'll dynamically adapt your tick rate depending on your kind of upload speeds, but it also kind of uses the 60 ticks much more effectively than a lot of other games, which, you know, say whatever you want about that, but yeah,
it's cool. All right, awesome. Well, then nothing to complain about.
Nothing at all.
Yet.
I think
until the next Tracer butt game.
Wow, Patrick's good.
yeah. Until they get rid of Widowmaker's butt cleavage, then we'll have some other things to yell about.
Part 2.
Yep,
part
exactly.
2.
Please no. Let's not get into that.
Oh, I thought you were saying, please no, don't get rid of Widowmaker's butt cleavage.
Guys, let's all celebrate.
No, I think I'd rather have 120 ticks be the next issue.
Well, wonderful. Shall we talk about Somber Clues? Because there's more of it.
Oh my gosh, it's going crazy
there's
right
more
now.
of it until hopefully she finally gets unveiled today, right after we finish recording.
It's time.
I think
now.
it's time.
It's not.
For sure.
It's not.
It's not.
And we're clues to another clue.
I do find it odd. It's the timing would seem weird, right?
If she gets unveiled today,
you drink a raw egg. Okay, this is on record.
Put it hand to heart on record. I'm gonna be one of those kind of goddamn idiots on Reddit who's just like, oh yeah, I'm totally gonna like eat a shoe if this thing happens. Then I have to do it, and then everyone calls me out, and it's oh god.
Yeah.
But seriously,
I
reckon we might get a big new clue, which might reveal something other than who has the information has the power. But it's not going to be a hero announcement. There's no, I mean, like 23, like the number 23 that keeps popping up is a cool gimmick, but I mean, Blizzard wouldn't miss the exposure from an event like Gamescom to, just delay it by a week.
That's exactly right. Because the timing would be weird if they did say they just had Gamescom and BlizzCon is right around the corner. So why? I don't. That doesn't make sense.
BlizzCon is still kind of 2 months away. I think they might want to reveal the character. I think we're going to get her before BlizzCon. If they still keep going with that stupid game for more, for another 2 months, it's gonna be worse than the tick rate and the hero switching and everything. It's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it was super fun for a month, but obviously there were things that were too hard people didn't get, and it went on for weeks and weeks, and people were making themselves crazy, and then they posted stuff on the website to steer them in the right direction, and it still didn't amount to anything. And that's it. I think people are done. I mean, I would be happy if they revealed her, and I think there's a real possibility that they do. Anna came out of nowhere.
I think the problem is less them dragging on the ARG, because I find ARGs a blast. I think it's more that they're kind of doing these unbelievably complex ARGs with no payoff. So if people were solving these clues and then you got given like insight into some of her abilities or her backstory or anything that doesn't just say quien tiene la información has the power, like just like that, every single clue just leads to that. And I think people are getting to the point where damn, we just spent,
we
like,
get it.
2 weeks with
Exactly.
5,000 people cracking this thing, and then we get this one line that doesn't lead anywhere. That said, the number of times that line is popping up, I really think that is now a piece to a much bigger clue. I think they're going to have to somehow bring all those same lines together to solve something much bigger. But yeah, I think the problem right now is that it's been a whole lot of work with literally, like, it has literally told us nothing. It's all just been Sombra being like, haha, you solved this clue. Now I'm going to make a harder clue. And then they're like, you solved the harder clue. Now I'm going to make an extra harder clue. And then
all right,
you don't really get anywhere.
If we get another, every other ARG now gives one of her abilities, for example, I could get behind that.
That would be really interesting.
If there's new information, I think that would be reasonable.
Yeah.
So you don't think Summer's gonna? So you think Summer will be announced before BlizzCon? I'm wondering, what's even going to be announced at BlizzCon then? If we're not going to have a new character, or at least
new game mode,
a new map and a game mode. Okay, but that's still not very much. That's one thing.
BlizzCon.
You think so?
BlizzCon is their like fireworks.
Yeah, I mean,
this is when they announced 3 new heroes, 2 new maps, like the release date of the game, the fact that it was going to be on console. Blizzard gets all their cool things and they pack it into BlizzCon. Yeah. That's their showstopper event. So I think that we're going to see BlizzCon. We'll get Sombra, maybe one other hero, although they've said they don't want to dump 3 heroes into the meta again because it created chaos.
No, but they can announce them and then
they can dish them out over time.
Release them at the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Which again, I've been drawing in so many parallels to heroes, but that's what they do every year for heroes. We usually see about 3 heroes, but they come out one at a time over the next 2 months. And I could see that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the life cycle of what they're going for with Overwatch, which is obviously going to be years and years and years, then say 3 heroes a year. It doesn't sound like much to us now because, we're playing the game in real time and we really want more. But if you think over like 5 years, that's 15 new heroes on top of a starting roster of 23. That takes us up to 38 heroes in the game over 5 years. Like, that's a lot of heroes. So if they want the game to have any longevity, as much as we might want them to just dump everything for us right now, in reality, they know that, this is a marathon, not a sprint. They've got to pace themselves and keep that extra content without kind of jeopardizing the core of the game. And dumping in too many heroes would do that.
We don't know what we want. Blizzard does.
We don't know what we
I mean, that point that you made, just real quick, is like 38 heroes. I don't know if that's actually a lot. Like if I'm comparing it to something like, let's just say Heroes or League of Legends and Dota. I mean, there's more than that.
I feel like it is in a team-based shooter. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's
that's a
different.
Lot of
It
characters.
is different. So it's like the real question is, is that enough? I mean, it does change the meta quite a bit, but one of the things that we have, which we'll be talking about esports soon, is in the competitive space. We're tired of seeing the same lineups like all the time, right? We definitely want more diversity in terms of strategy, and that can only happen if you have more heroes introduced to the game.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think that in a hero shooter, it's definitely distinct to a MOBA in the sense that 110 or however many heroes Dota has, putting that in a game like Overwatch would be, I think, very excessive.
It could get quite chaotic. I mean, currently there's no bans and hero switching. That is a lot to have to understand and learn for any one particular game that you end up in.
Mm-hmm.
And in a MOBA, people pick their heroes at the start. They're locked into that for 40 minutes. You've got time to kind of like understand their team composition, adapt to it, understand the heroes they're running and what abilities to expect. But in a game where people can free change every 2 minutes over a 12-minute round, I think that could be like a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from though, like, because definitely in the MOBAs that a lot of us play, that would be a low number.
Yeah, absolutely. I already think Overwatch kind of goes above and beyond the realm that it's in. There's a lot of parallels to draw.
Already. Yeah.
With MOBAs,
no
definitely.
question.
Like, I don't think you're wrong, Chris. We've obviously made plenty of MOBA parallels on this show before. I
think you just want that depth in the existing. Like TF2 is a perfect example of that. The amount of depth you get in that limited roster of 9 characters is so huge. Like, there's just rocket jumping to master, air shots, like prediction, like just so much stuff contained within that small roster. It's and it's definitely enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, there is a chance that it will be not a huge year for Overwatch or BlizzCon. Not every Blizzard game always has a big year at BlizzCon. There's years where it's quieter. Diablo, for the love of God, for the last 2 years has been extremely quiet. But it would definitely be strange for the first post-launch BlizzCon for Overwatch not to have a good showing, not to have something to tell us.
I agree.
But it does happen. There will probably be a year where the Overwatch stuff is just like, these are the comics coming out this year, and we have one short planned for you all. I don't know what voice that is.
10 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope not, man.
They could make it into announcing the eSports plans. That would be somewhat big.
Yeah,
but
that would be huge. That would be enormous. Maybe
that only
announcement.
Yeah, that's really that. I mean, that's only a subsection of the audience though for Overwatch would really care about. I mean, we would because we like esports, but like
very small one to be honest.
Yeah,
like right now,
exactly.
At least.
They gotta have.
I know something that Blizzard's like acutely like aware of and was kind of obviously any developer's going to be nervous about that, but is like that curse that a lot of FPS games have, like Battleborn or I don't know if Battleborn you really call FPS, but
I don't know. Yeah,
Battleborn's like a first-person shooter though. In the
it
sense
it is a first-person shooter. It's just
in a very similar way to Overwatch, but in that whole kind of a lot of these shooters come out and they have a very short lifespan and then they die after not very long at all. So I think especially for the first year, Blizzard is going to be, really pumping content. And I mean, we're going to get like a Halloween event. I'm almost certain, given Olympics.
I will finally pay money for loot boxes if there's a Halloween event.
Yeah. And then you've got BlizzCon, and then you got Christmas. Like, I just think that it definitely makes much more sense to release a hero as hyped as Sombra around an event as big as BlizzCon, rather than just randomly dumping her in this awkward time slot after Gamescom.
Though if she's creepy and stealthy and has skull logos, October makes sense.
That's right.
Around a Halloween event, I would be in on that. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Keep going up. All right. Well, we already talked a little bit about esports, so let's dive right into it. Chris, we had kind of a big event this past weekend.
Oh,
just a little bit.
The biggest today, the Atlantic Showdown. So it's at Gamescom. It culminated into Gamescom. Actually, Ellie, did you get a chance to check out the finals or any of the matches?
Yeah, I basically when I wasn't streaming, I'd run over there and sneak in. I remember the actual first game that I saw was, oh my god, and it was so poetic. Now I think back to it, was Cloud9 versus Rogue,
Ooh.
and I remember Cloud9's captain, who was what's his name, with like godlike McCree aim, like he played incredibly.
Before?
Yeah, Surefour. He came out on stage and just with a touch of arrogance, the commentator person asked, how do you think you go up against Rogue? And he was like, well, you know what? We've literally never lost to these guys before. I don't think we're going to start now.
Oh,
and then Rogue went up and won the tournament.
Yeah, the
kiss of death. I know.
Yeah.
It's like the commentator's curse, except he did it to his own team.
Yeah. But so to sum up the Atlantic Showdown, it's an event that lasted 7 weeks. There were weeks and weeks of qualifiers, and I mean just a ton of casting from the ESL crew. This was organized and brought to everybody from ESL, working with Blizzard, and basically the top 8 teams went to Gamescom. And they played in 2 groups, and they kind of battled it out, and like each group was its own bracket. And then the top 4 teams would come out of that, and then you have like a single limb bracket for the semifinals and the finals. And the biggest rhetoric that was happening, like going into this, was that just kind of going in just the rankings and whatever ranking systems we have with like Gosu Gamers and some of the events we've seen to date, is that NA teams were better than EU teams. Just in terms of just the online terms they were winning. Envious particularly, 57 match winning streak. Just dominating everybody, winning every event literally in the last, 4 or 5 months now. And so they were the huge favorite going into this thing.
And they had a strong opening in Group A.
Yeah. And
unlike the other favorite, Cloud9 in Group B.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
all the way to I guess we're gonna spoil, right? We don't.
Yeah.
We're not gonna not say, but yeah.
It's
all
results
the way to the semifinals, undefeated. Like it was true to their legend, I guess. All the way to the semifinals.
But yeah, definitely they were 2-0 in their groups, and they were going into the semifinals. So still, they weren't looking quite as dominant as they were before in the groups, just because there were some really close series actually in the groups just between everybody. But Envious still generally doing what Envious does, beating everybody. But I think you saw a lot of teams that were performing really well in the group stages that I think some people were surprised at. I think Misfits, even though they ended up losing, I think they performed really well. Fnatic, obviously. Reunited, just the second place winner. I mean, they were just playing extremely well. And to be honest, I think it was the NA teams that just didn't perform. I mean, Cloud9, like you said, Cloud9 Complexity, they just didn't play nearly as well, or at least relatively as well as all the other teams did, and it showed. I don't know if there's just a big difference playing, traveling and playing in a LAN and just not being comfortable there. But we definitely didn't see a lot of the players perform at the level that we've seen in the past. So it's just something that happens at events, and this is what happens at LANs, right? When you come together, this is where you prove yourself. Online's obviously something that where teams establish their names to and whatnot, but it's always been known that when you come to LANs, this is where you bring it, and this is where just the best teams are have their defining moments, right? So
I think.
Rogue.
I was going to say, I think.
Yeah,
Rogue won.
Yeah. Well,
sorry. You finish what you're going on with. I'm blank.
No, go ahead.
Wait, are you talking about this?
I was just going to say, like.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing it again.
Continue. I had a stupid joke. Continue.
I was just going to say that, I think that one of the interesting things I observed was that I think that, Cloud9 had probably, you could say, or a lot of those kind of favorite teams had the better players. But I think the teams that ultimately came out on top, they were the people who had the better team. Absolutely. Because, Rogue, Cloud9, oh my, seeing Surefour just make plays with McCree. There was one where they were attacking on Kings Row in their first match against Rogue. And basically all of Surefour's team was dead. Then him on 40 HP on the point managed to pick off 3 or 4 people with these just precise headshots. It was unbelievable. But ultimately, I just think that Cloud9, it just felt like they had these amazing players that just didn't really come together as a team. Whereas Rogue didn't necessarily have as many mind-blowing plays, but the plays they did make, you could tell they just used that teamwork to its absolute maximum and came out on top.
And definitely, and it was like really little things where there's the teamwork, but it was mixed with just the ultimate management. Like the ult managements were just superb. Rogue did like Zarya ults. I mean, wins with his Zarya ults were by far the best one, and I mean it showed in Rogue's play. I mean Rogue was able to upset Envious in the semifinals, which was I wish there was a losers bracket there because I think Envious might have still been able to swing it around because it was probably the tightest series that we had in the entire tournament. It was a 3-2, and it went in the very last map was a Koth map, and it went all the way to the final map too on that. So it really could have gone either way on that map, and maybe if there was a losers bracket, Envious might have come back and won the whole thing. But Rogue beating Envious obviously was a monumental moment in the tournament. I mean, Rogue was just like cheering. I mean, they were high fiving, going crazy after that. Even the crowd was going crazy at that point. So just kind of chopping down the king, giving them one loss, in 57 matches or 58 matches. That's still pretty amazing. I mean, they're still arguably the best team, but Rogue definitely showed that. At least at LANs, I think they're the best at LANs right now, and it's because of their teamwork and just their consistency. Like every one of their players played relatively the same. Reinhardt, Reinforced got a lot of crap for some crazy reason, just on Twitch chat and Reddit and whatnot, and I don't think it was necessarily fair.
He was Rogue's just Reinhardt, right?
Yeah, and it was just kind of weird that he got all that hate, but it shouldn't have been. It definitely shouldn't have been because he played great too.
Yeah, I mean, he played unbelievably. I think that I think that was the one point I love all the casters who were casting that game. They're amazing guys, and they did an amazing job. The one thing where I was sitting in the audience and I was like, I don't really feel good about that was when literally during the finals, these guys are either the number 1 or number 2 team in the world at this point, and they were saying, Reinforces definitely, just like the weak link on his team. Like he's not, he is the worst player on Rogue, and it just comes back to what for me is, if you're casting competitive, criticize the plays, don't criticize the player. So be like, that play right there wasn't, the right thing to do. Like that was a bit of a mistake from Reinforce, but calling out someone as the worst player on his team and the weak link and
it was weird because it was just more of like the setup. It wasn't like, oh, he's terrible. It was just more like, no, if you were to pick the weak link on this team, who would it be? And it's like he could still be exceptionally great, but if you're posed with that question and somebody picks it, it just has this really negative sound to it, and I think that kind of carried over a little bit and just kind of continued in a weird fashion. But I agree. Like, I think the casting generally should have been, it was really good. Don't get me wrong. I think all the D-Man, Jason, Kaplan, Mitch, and Stir.
That was
Stir.
Dude,
Stir first. I know. He sounded great.
He nailed it.
Yeah, he definitely nailed it. I think that generally speaking, I think they did a fantastic job. It was just, at times, with being a caster, you have to balance criticism versus, just positivity, right? And just like calling out great plays. And, it was probably just a little bit on the negative, a little bit too much on the negative side, for that cast.
That's something you hear.
But overall, I mean, I think they did a fantastic job. Just all the talent, the analyst desk and the casting.
It's the first big event. It's going to be, growing pains basically for, as the Overwatch scene grows. So it makes sense to me. And that's something you hear discussed all the time in subreddits around other esports events, which is the casting. How negative do you get? Because you don't want casters that just ignore anything wrong that they just saw on the screen, but you also don't want the other side of that pendulum, which is hyper negativity. So.
Yeah, and overall, I think the event was, we saw a lot of things that they were trying. They were trying, like, in the analyst desk with potential replays, just kind of queued up, too, for them. It didn't quite go completely smooth, so the next iteration, I think, will be a lot better with that. But overall, just from production standpoint, I think the production was the next level. I think it's probably, production-wise, the best event that we've had to date, which fits that this was the biggest tournament too. The only concern I had was really spectator. I think the spectator still wasn't a step up from what we've seen. I think Agents Rising actually still might have been a little bit better than this one. So it still needs to be figured out. Like, people still need to make these rules of not showing certain characters, because it's just it's so hard on the eyes to watch.
So actually,
and things like that.
I actually watched for first time, I think, the whole semifinal and the whole final for a tournament. And even for the finals, I was very excited. And I got my wife to watch the game as well.
Oh, okay.
And
Awesome.
she has never played Overwatch. She's not a game player. She has never watched eSports. So it was a really interesting comparison and experience. And I think I didn't realize how horribly hectic and completely impossible to understand this game in particular is. She did not understand anything. I mean, she was, interested in the beginning when the commenters were explaining what was happening, the different teams and all of this. But when the game started, it was impossible to follow. And I guess it got me to re-examine how I was watching it as well. And I guess I realized I don't even understand what's happening. It's, and I've played the game for hundreds of hours. Yeah. And I understand, a couple of plays here and there, and overall how the match is going, how the play is going. But really, I don't quite understand what's happening. So I think, of course, there's a lot of work to be done on the observer mode. It needs. I now understand what you were saying, Chris, a while ago, that the observer mode is not up to the task at this point. It needs a lot more tools. And also, I think I'm wondering if they're not spending too little time on third-person static overviews.
Exactly.
Don't show the the first person view so much. It's really hard to follow, whereas when you see it's less dynamic, obviously, when you see the overhead, where you see the entire scene, but at least you sort of understand what's happening a little bit better. I'm not sure, maybe when you do that too much, it becomes kind of not dynamic enough and it gets boring. It's possible, but certainly the way it's being done now, I think it is very is too hard to follow. And so I'm wondering if there wouldn't need to be a noob stream. I know Valve did this for the International a couple of times. So at least you have a choice. You have a noob stream where really they only show mostly overheads, and the commentators actually explain in very simple terms that would be boring to expert players. But for regular people to, or at least regular gamers to get into this, because the way it is now, it's never going to happen. I didn't realize the extent to which it was confusing. And I went to Twitter, and a lot of people told me, I'm not a big esports follower in general. I watched this, and I didn't understand anything, even though I am an Overwatch player. So, I mean, there's a lot to say here. I just want to add another thing. I didn't realize how much pros were doing team fights. It's all team fights.
It's all
it's only team fight. The thing I take away from this tournament, and I guess all tournaments, is that you never go in alone. Maybe you flank a little bit if you need to, but it's only team fights. And once you lose the team fight, you regroup and you go back for another team fight. And that's how the game is played at high levels. I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see Reinhardt's just jump off the map just so they can resync spawn times with their group, just seriously. It happens all the time, just to self kills, just so you can you group up again coming out of the spawn. But yeah, just to kind of follow up on your point about the spectator, I think that yes, we need more observation tools, like spectating tools, but at the same time we just need people to really focus, like production teams, to really focus on and study a lot of this footage, and just really train themselves to figure out when we should show third person, because people have this understanding of MOBAs already. Lots of people, millions of people watch League of Legends and Dota 2 already, so they have this understanding of team, team-based games, or at least team-based class games, and what it looks like from overhead, right? And I think if Overwatch added maybe some transparency in rooftops and stuff, we could get a little bit more to that. There's going to be more. We're going to need to add some more different coloring and things to I don't know, names, and maybe add some dynamics that way.
It's a toolkit issue.
I think overheads is really important to show, but choosing that and then figuring out when they think McCree crazy plays are going to be happening, or when that Zarya play or when that Tracer bomb is going to happen, and then maybe go first person for that, or director call that cam, like
exactly.
really,
You know
really
what?
quickly.
Instant
But it takes
replay
a
is
solution
something that
for
would be
this.
really important.
I have a solution for this.
Mhm.
Delay it. You just
That's what
delay
they-
it by 30 seconds.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, that's something that people have been talking about. It's just like a stream delay, basically.
Yeah.
Muselk, you're
Muselk,
muted,
I think you're muted.
Oh.
Or your mic went out.
Still muted, or mic went out, yeah.
Yeah, we've
That's all the
now-
time you have to speak. That's it.
Exactly.
You used it all.
You got to put another quarter in the
working?
machine.
and now it is.
Yeah,
now
it's
it is.
working now.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that's weird. I got no idea why it cut out. Yeah, well, so I was going to say that's what they do for TF2, but I mean the problem is TF2 doesn't really get many live tournaments because it's TF2. But I mean Overwatch, pretty much every big tournament is going to be casted live at a big event like it was at Gamescom. And when you're at a live event, the casters are actually on site. They're casting to an audience as well who's at the site, and you can't really insert a delay there because it's a live
It would
event.
be weird.
Yeah. It's, I mean,
And then, you'd see the winning team jump up, and then 30
Right.
seconds later, the casters are still like, so they're still pushing into the point here, and it's getting really intense. Yeah, anyway.
it would be difficult, but I think it's possible. It would take a really, specific configuration to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a solution to do it. I think
Maybe even 10 seconds. Maybe 10 seconds would be enough. It doesn't have
Well,
to be long.
just
Even
get
like-
good. Just get good.
Get
Come on,
good.
guys. Like,
Yeah,
seriously.
just get good. I would like to hear more from our listeners on this as well. I've always personally found first-person shooters nigh unwatchable. I was very surprised when I found out that CS:GO was going to be TBS's first foray into a esport event multiple times a year on a traditional cable network. Because I think unless you are already very knowledgeable about the game, that the way that cameras naturally function in a first-person game is exceptionally hard to watch. It is not an easy thing. I think back to the first MLG event I ever went to, my first esport event. I'm not a fighting game fan at all. Patrick, I know you're a massive fighting game fan. I had a blast watching Street Fighter. I don't know jack about Street Fighter. I had a very good time because it's very easy to understand. And I think that's also very true of MOBAs because the isometric view is just conducive to understanding, okay, this is, even if you've never seen it in your life, it's like, this is a field, that guy's red, that guy's blue, cool things are happening. I've always found that extremely hard to get across in a shooter. And when Overwatch was unveiled at BlizzCon and we got to see that one shoutcasted game, there was a lot of pulled out views. We were watching Ganymede get in front of Muselk while I'm trying to get my thoughts together, and now I'm laughing. So.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
It's
just
2:30
no,
a.m. here.
no.
I'm jet lagged. I'm going slightly mentally insane. So you got to give me.
Yeah, so I mean, we can wrap up at least the Atlantic Showdown with it did top out at around 80,000 or maybe just a little bit over 80,000 concurrent viewers, which again is the most views we've ever had on an event. So Overwatch esports, it continues to grow, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Blizzard's still taking their time, like before announcing their plans. But in the meantime, ESL and organizations like ESL will continue doing some cool events, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out the tournament, again, eSports Red, our friends at eSports Red have it up, so you can go and watch it very easily there. And you also can skip to the finals. It will get you to the right time code in the Twitch video. Super well done. So they're still doing a great job there. So esportsred.com is probably the easiest place to watch these Blizzard tournaments.
Big shout out to those guys.
Yeah. So second thing in the esports thing is that the Overwatch World Cup event was announced for BlizzCon, and this is a really, really cool event. And Muselk is one of the representatives for Australia, I believe, in the.
Maybe.
Oh, you may
I'm
be.
one
Okay,
of the
maybe.
nominees.
One of the one of the nominees. So how this works, guys,
We
is that-
qualify automatically as well.
Yes, you're so lucky. But the way this is going to work, or what this event's all about, is it's going to be more of this kind of like mixture of fun and competitive event, and it's going to be teams representing their countries. And you're going to be
That's
able
a genius idea, by the way.
isn't it? Especially with the Olympics just happening and all, and they announced the World Cup, and so you're going to be able to vote on, or you can actually go vote right now. You can vote for your favorite, pro player or personalities, and basically the top 6 players are going to be able to represent their team. And they have, I forget exactly how many countries, but we have the link here actually.
It's
in the
80 something.
I think it's 8. Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very good coverage. So lots of your favorite, Overwatch, again, players and personalities are on the list. So definitely go and vote for them. The winners are going to be obviously invited to BlizzCon and battle it out on stage, in I guess this more of an exhibition-like type of event.
Yeah, there's going to be.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It looks like
awesome.
4 teams from America.
I still think you'll see it won't be like a random pub game, because I mean pretty much everyone on that list is either a top tier competitive player or they're a YouTuber who is, I believe you had to be at least rank 65, except for Mexico, which for some reason had a bunch of like rank 47s, but apparently that was a mistake from what I heard. Yeah, they got some rank 47s. Yeah.
Oh,
so, but I mean,
Mexico.
I think what you'll probably see are teams of probably 4 or 5 competitive players paired up with like one YouTuber, influencer, whatever you want to call them, who will be playing the support. And I mean,
stick them on.
That's why I've been learning. That's why I've been learning Zenyatta, because I figure if I do get on the team, there's no way I can compete with like the flick aim of these guys or the Reinhardt plays. So my goal is to be the least hindrance possible. is what I'm going for here. The lowest handicap.
That explains your defense of charging up your orbs on Zenyatta early in the episode. Now I get it. It's all coming. The pieces are coming together.
I'm not sure if you're saying because I'm bad or because I'm trying to learn Zenyatta.
No, it's because you're trying to learn something. But so 4 teams from America, 6 from Europe, and 6 from Asia Pacific looks like who will be going out to SoCal for BlizzCon and when this is all said and done. So.
I'm actually, one of the things I am most excited to see is the Korean teams. There's been a lot of talk, on the overview, we've had Doa on the show a few times, and he's given us an update as how the Korean teams are doing or how the events over in Korea are, just how they're playing out. And we haven't had a Korean team actually go and attend any of these lands that, we've only seen NA and EU teams battling it out in, like the Gamescom or the Atlantic Showdown. So seeing some of the Korean teams on the same stage as some of the American and European teams, I think will be enlightening because they're coming. I mean, the Koreans.
And that's how the Koreans do it. They sit there, they train behind closed doors. No one knows what they're up to. And then at BlizzCon, bam, suddenly they run out of spawn, 6 Bastions, just blowing you down. You got no idea what's happening. They just throw the meta out the window. It's smart, man. It's smart.
That's right. Totally.
Same with us in Australia. It's not because no one likes us. It's because we deliberately chose to exclude ourselves.
Well, fantastic. Well, I think we're going to wrap the show up there. Muselk, dude, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a blast, and especially given the time difference and that you're jet lagged. So you've been a champion, sir. So
thank you for putting up with my delusional interruptions. And I blame all the interruptions on the fact that it is a 300 ping connection, which just anyway.
There's no 60 tick here.
We need to improve our tick rate.
Skype, seriously.
So, where can our listeners find you when you're not guesting on podcasts?
Oh, you can find me at youtube.com/Mr. Muselk. And it's only Mr. Muselk because some weird Swedish guy with 3 subscribers took Muselk. So screw you, random Swedish guy. You've created so many problems for me in my life. I'm actually going to go look at his channel now just to dislike all his videos.
Wow.
Yeah, thumbs down.
Wow.
Give it the thumbs down. All around the table, Patrick, where can folks find you?
Not Patrick on Twitter, and go check out Pixels, the latest episode of our general gaming podcast. We had a roundup of Gamescom with Scott Johnson, so you can find that at FrenchSpin.com, and the show is called Pixels.
Fantastic. Chris, how about you?
You can find my stuff basically ending in ChanmanV, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And later today, I'm going to be doing my Hearthstone podcast, Value Town, which you can check out at 4 p.m. Be me, Noxious, and TJ Sanders, caster for a lot of the Hearthstone events. So that should be a lot of fun. And that's it for me.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art. You can find this podcast and every single other damn show I do on amove.tv. There's a few of them. We also have our own show. It's called The Angry Chicken. It recorded yesterday. You should go listen to it. It's fun. Or maybe you'll hate it. I don't know. Email the show at over at mailoverwatchers@gmail.com. You can follow the show at OverwatchCast on YouTube or on Twitter, and you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on youtube.com/GameMoveTV. Keep those iTunes reviews coming, guys. They help the show out quite a bit. Let's thank Men Talk 1982, Diva Fan, who wins for liking the best hero, and Boulder Smolder, who wins the name game this week. Thank you for your 5-star reviews. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, good luck and have fun.
Bye.
Bye.